That last show was dope, man. But we
off the hook, man.
Yeah, man. But you know what, man? I was giving some thought, man.
Right.
And I'm a little confused with what to do for the next show. I wonder what we're gonna do for the next show.
Whatever it is, be something crazy.
Yeah, man.
It'll be something crazy.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yo. What up? Hey yo, I'm bad to the bone, with a style like Al Capone, Bumpy Johnson, young black Michael Corleone. My dress code is absurd, mentally disturbed. My Benz parked by the curb, pumping a bag of herb. The cops got a lot of questions they like to ask.
Oh, look who showed up.
It's good.
What's going on, Dice? How you feel, man?
Chilling, man.
How you been, man? Good to see you, man.
Grinding, man. I just came through to see what y'all was into.
You know what, man? We in here. I actually was trying to see what was going on with the next show. Why don't we sit down and chop it up?
All right, let's do it.
All right, that's what's up. Hey, once again, it's the Uncle. Welcome to another episode of TUBARS, the Uncle Brisson Review Show. And listen, I was interrupted in a good way. My man Dice Raw came through the studio today. What's good with you, man?
Hey,
how you been?
Hey, man, we here, man.
Okay.
So, I'm happy to be here. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. You know what I mean? And feel good about it. So
I appreciate you coming through, man.
Hey,
and
my pleasure.
You've been working hard, man. You've been working hard lately, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, so tell the folks a little bit about what you got going on.
Okay, well, I just created a new project, and it's called The Narrative, where basically I ask a lot of questions musically and, through literary questions, and a new novel called The Narrative is, same title as the album.
Okay, all right. And I had an opportunity to actually dig in this album, and we're going to talk a little bit about it as we talk a little bit amongst ourselves. We'll get into the album a little later, but it's a lot of people out here, that's been anticipating. I've been hearing some buzz around your name, and actually, you got some good things going on. The first thing I actually wanted to talk to you a little bit about was tell the people a little bit about the play that you got going on right now.
Well, I created 2 hip-hop musicals.
Mm-hmm.
One is about mass incarceration, and that's called The Last Jimmy. And, that ran a few different places, been presented all over the country. And then we have a new musical called Box, which is the story of Henry Box Brown. And we just did a 3-week run here in Philadelphia, and it's just been commissioned too by the Adrian Arts Center in Miami, which is a good look for me. It's something new. Last Jimmy had never been commissioned, and that Box is kind of like going in the right direction as far as me being taken more serious as a playwright and operating in the musical theatrical space.
Yeah, and it's a good play, man. And the soundtrack is dope to it too.
Thank you.
You had some good stuff come out, man. That single you had with Static Select last year, the Bloody Mary joint.
Okay.
I dig that joint. And it's a slept-on album by you that I really, really enjoy. The Greatest Rapper Never. You know what I mean? I love that joint. The 100 joint is dope.
Okay.
When you teamed up, of course, with Schoolie D
and
Freeway for the remix was real dope.
Bubonic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they was all on it.
Yeah, they was. You're absolutely right. And the Last Jimmy soundtrack, just tell the people a little bit about what went into that, in regards to the playwright and everything.
Okay, yeah, The Last Jimmy, it was such an interesting process, which actually that's a good question, because I can even lead into why we're here today.
Right.
A friend named Taib Smith and a colleague that I work with gave me a book, which was Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, and I read it and was just blown away by how she compartmentalized like the low-hanging fruit, the re-entry process, prison reform in a whole, and then just like how blacks are being targeted by the police. It just put a different spin on it, even for me, somebody who was a victim of stuff like that, being arrested like once a year. Me and Truck got locked up together.
Right.
Just on some BS
right.
weed charge. It's crazy, but when you hear how she broke it down, I was just so blown away by how somebody could actually, how somebody took a different spin and a different perspective and brought it to light, and it really enlightened me in a way where I wanted to do the same thing, and I wanted to actually help her along her fight. You know what I mean? So I read the book, and then I did the album Jimmy's Back, and then I linked up with my partner Phil Brown, and then we created The Last Jimmy, which is a hip hop musical, which spawned the soundtrack. So it was a long process from me reading a book, then writing an album, then developing the play, then developing the soundtrack of the play. Where this time, on a narrative, I wrote my own book, and my album is inspired by a book that I'm writing. So they kind of like, it's a brother and sister kind of project.
Okay, all right. And I look forward to reading the book.
Okay.
I heard the album again. Beautiful body of work.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit about it. But a little history, of course. Excuse me. The roots.
Okay.
The first time I really got a good gust of your flow and your bars was on Adrenaline.
Nice.
And just that whole feel and that the power, I guess, in the music at that time. Just give us a little bit of background of what went into the creation of that. I know you was a younger man at that time, but just what was the vibe around in the studio, around in music for you at that time?
Around Adrenaline or Things Fall Apart?
That whole album, and then too with Adrenaline too.
Okay. I mean, working on Things Fall Apart, it was interesting because at this point, like somebody told me one day, they was like, yo, do you not know that people know who you are as a rapper?
Right.
And I was just like, because I was saying something and someone was like, wait a minute, you're saying that like you're a regular person. And I was like, I am a regular person.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? I was like, just because I rap doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? And they were just trying to explain something to me, but even at that time, when I look back on it, I didn't really look at it as we were doing anything that special. You know what I'm saying? It was just going to the studio was something that we like to do. I liked hanging around Tariq. I liked hanging around Amir. I liked getting their advice on things. I liked annoying them. Because I was like a little brother kind of person. You know what I mean? Like, he'd be like, "Oh, here comes Dice.
Right.
Okay, everybody get ready." You know what I'm saying? But the vibe was great. And it's more like childhood stories versus like, album experience. Like I'm sure I'll look back on it and have a different perspective on it even like 10 years from now than the way I look at it now. But I mean, we're kids, doing like kid stuff. But while we would do kid stuff, we would also make rap records.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So,
I mean, because you guys are called the legendary Roots Crew. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with that being said, and I know you probably had some influences within the camp and all that, but who are like some people I guess you've listened to that kind of influenced Dice to want to do music aside from the Roots, but just in general that gives you something to create? Because you got a few bodies of work under your belt solo. So what gives you that? What makes you want to do the type of music, or what makes you want to do solo projects?
I mean, usually, before I even started rapping, like I was heavily inspired by KRS-One.
Okay.
I was heavily inspired by Public Enemy, even the Beastie Boys, for LL Cool J, Slick Rick, EPMD. EPMD was a real heavy influence on me.
Oh man.
But then as time grew on, like Nas, Jay-Z, like I always try to like listen to whoever's killing it at times. You know what I mean? So I mean, even J. Cole has his days for me where I'm like, yo, he's really on target. You know, and I get inspired by new artists like that. Sometimes I even get inspired by, fluff hip hop, like for some reason I like Plug Talk. I just, I don't understand it. It's like, why do I listen to Plug Talk? Anyway, but what I really get inspired from lately in doing projects is it has to be something that speaks to me. It has to be something that's in my heart, and it's something that I like it's almost like I can't talk about certain things anymore. Like I can't talk about particular love song, or I can't talk about like being like happy from it, like a different perspective, or just like enjoying like life, really based on a loose narrative of nothingness or a false sense of what people may consider wealth, or any of that kind of stuff. Like it's just hard for me to like lock into to that kind of stuff. So what I try to do is, the musical is about mass incarceration. It's like I remember one time I was on the elevator, and the old ladies that live in my building, one gets on the elevator and she sees my T-shirt. And she's like, "Oh, The Last Jimmy." She's like, "What is that about?" And I said, "Oh, it's a musical." They were like, "Oh, musical." I said, "Yes, about mass incarceration, prison reform, privatized prisons, unfair judicial system." And she says, "Oh, sounds upbeat.
Oh.
You know, and
Upbeat, wow.
yeah, so it's like those are the things, like the disconnect that that she had from what I had just said to her is the reason why I do these things, and that kind of like is driving me in a direction that I actually didn't even see myself being driven in earlier on, because you know, just was hip hop, turn on the beat, I'm gonna spit, I'm gonna say a whole bunch of crazy stuff, and you know, and have fun with it. But now it's just I feel like as I get older, the things I do have to be a little bit more serious.
Right. All right, so with that being said, that leads into my next question. What do you feel about the climate of hip-hop right now? Like, you know, it's a lot of, I guess, if you want to call them overnight success, it's a lot, and this is just my opinion, it's a lot of, with social media, it can be given to you like right at this second, and, you know, they're here now, they're going tomorrow. You know, what do you feel about the climate of hip hop right now? How do you feel about it?
To me, well, it's different, because like that's a hard question, because it's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different kind of like hip hops going on right now to me. And I think like that's kind of like a problem too, like, and why, you know, I wrote the book and why I you know, did this new album. The narrative is because I feel like being black in America, we all get painted with the same brush. Like, first of all, we get painted as the face of criminality, and you know, when you see a black male, you should be afraid of him, because typically they're going to be angry, or they may rob you, or they may hurt you, because that's the narrative that has been pushed against us. You know, so with the narrative, with us being painted with that same brush, I feel that, well, us being painted by the brush that the media's been pushing, that same narrative, I feel as though that same brush paints us in hip hop. So it's like every time you see a black artist who is singing or rapping, you just say, okay, that's hip hop. And I think that there's so many different genres and so many different ways that black artists express themselves, that the ones who are really expressing themselves kind of get lost without having without us being a part of these different genres, without us being to actually participate on the rock charts, without us being to participate on the, you know, the blues charts or the country charts. It's like all these different things have kind of been taken from us, and now we're not able to participate in them, and we're just hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, people think Thundercat is hip hop. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, he got some rappers on his record, but you see what I'm going with that?
Yeah, I feel you. All right, so of course, with the bodies of work that you've had in the past, and with this now, this is a double album. I pose this question. I know sometimes your first album is like your baby. Do you feel like this album, The Narrative, is your best body of work? And if so, give us the reason why.
Well, I'll say this. I know for a fact it's my most complete body of work that I've ever done. And like you said, like you asked me that question, but I know that you feel it is my best work. And other people have said that, you know what I'm saying? But you know,
honestly, I do feel it's your best work. Don't get me wrong. I listen to all your albums, and you know, of course, you grab from here, you grab from there. But I'm talking about as far as a full body of work. In my opinion, it is. Yeah,
and look, I think that's a great compliment. And like, I know you was like, yo, I don't want to offend you by saying that. Like, your other stuff was alright, but this new stuff is good. But no, I don't take offense to that, because I do practice my craft. And to me, that's the actual best compliment that you could give somebody like my age. Like, even what Tariq just did, like Black Thought, like with the freestyle and dropping the EP, and then the internet going crazy, like he's like a new artist. And they finally like, it's turning on. So it's like, you know what? We're just getting better. We're like, as time goes on, we're just, we're like fine wine. And I think that's because we never really chased, the charts or chased the actual climate in hip hop.
And I respect that. I respect that. And quote me if I'm wrong. I think Tariq may have said, like, he doesn't have to, if he had just 100,000 people, that listen to his music or whatever, like, you're fine with that. You don't need to be the gazillion, I respect that about y'all. Y'all wasn't trying to chase the what's right at this second, or what's the popular thing to do right now.
Exactly. Never. They never. The Roots never was really into that kind of stuff, and I mean, like, they was actually the total opposite. They'd be like, "What's on the radio? Okay, we're doing the exact opposite." You know what I'm saying? It's like Dead Prez. He's like, the radio don't play it. That's cool. The enemy's supposed to hate it. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly. All right, so I gotta ask this question, man. If Dice wasn't doing hip hop, what would Dice be doing?
Man, that's a good question. Like, I don't know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I really don't know. Because, you know, when you a kid, it's like, kids are smart. You know what I mean? So, typically, you know, when people would ask me when I was a kid, they'd say, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would always tell them, so like at first I'd be like, a doctor.
Right.
Because I knew they'd be like, okay, they'd be on my, you know what I mean, they'd be on the jock a little bit, you know what I'm saying? They'd be like, oh, he's such a smart kid, he wants to go into a good field. I'd be like, a lawyer.
Right,
Or I'd be like, an astronaut, that's what they get freaky with. I want to be an architect.
Right,
And then just, people start pulling out dollars. They're like, oh, you know, look,
Here
man,
you go.
here's $1, you know. I want to be an astronaut and a doctor. I want to operate on the moon. They'd be like, oh, okay, here's more money, you know, just hit them with, just keep going with it. But, you know, at a certain point, you know, I told myself that I did want to be a rapper. I was like, yo, I want to be a rapper when I was about 13 years old.
Okay.
And, I mean, that happened, you know. If I didn't meet the roots, I probably would have be in jail or something like that. Because most of my friends that, I remember the guy who discovered me, his name is Kilo, who introduced me to the roots. Mm-hmm. When I went to his studio the first day, I had 2 people with me.
Okay.
Right? And when I showed up to the studio, he was like, yo, you can come in, but they can't come in.
Wow.
And I was like, well, yo, these are my people. Like, yo, if they can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was already on some Hollywood bull. I was like, excuse my language, but I was like, yo, my peoples can't come in, yo, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Even though I had never even been inside a studio before. Mm-hmm. So I went home and I just was thinking about it. I was like, man, like, I wonder what the studio looked like.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I wonder what's in there. Like, you know, at this point, I didn't even know other rappers even wrote their raps down or nothing like that. Wow. So I knew nothing about the music industry. I mean, nothing about anything, right? So he called me the next day. He's like, yo, you gonna come through? And I did. I went through and I didn't tell my friends where I was going that day. And both of those people are in jail right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so who knows where I'll be at.
All right, so, you know, it's tough to get people to, and this is just my thought process again, to support what I consider good music. And I say good music, not just good hip hop. Why do you feel that the youth and I guess people our generation should support this project?
Well, I think that what I want people to do is not necessarily even really support the project. Mm-hmm. I want people to listen to it. I'm an artist, of course. I want people to listen to it and like it.
Right.
But I mean, for the most part, what I want them to do is support a different narrative for African American males and African American females. I want them to support prison reform. I want them to support, you know, what Van Jones is doing. You know what I'm saying? I want them to support what's going on with the environment. You know what I'm saying? I want them to support what's going on with mental health, you know, trying to figure out what's going on with black males and mental health. So, and I want them to, it's like we're talking about the disconnect between black males and females totally, you know what I'm saying? Like, and, you know, maybe they can get inspired to reconnect with someone that they really care about, or even start taking the one that they care about even more serious, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it's all different things that, you know, I want people to be inspired to do from this project, because everything I talk about on here is really just what's really on my mind and my perspective on the world as I see it right now.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So.
All right, so.
But yeah, if they buy it, that's cool too. I mean, you could just send me your credit card information. People out there, just you could inbox me, you know, DM me your credit card.
We need
and I'll
that.
take
Cash
care
app.
of it. Yeah.
We need that.
Cash app.
Yeah, we need that. All right, so something that I found interesting, I saw like 3 different. I guess it's the artwork. I wasn't sure exactly which was the Thanksgiving one, which was amazing, and of course I plan on having, you know, that being showed. So you had the Thanksgiving one, you had the one with the hanging, you know, the tree hanging.
Family tree.
Right, yeah, the family tree.
Yeah.
So just kind of explain to the public, you know, what inspired that. Because first off, it looks like kids drawn, and it's just something different, and it's fresh, it's new, and it actually is saying a lot. So just go into a little bit about the artwork.
Well, you know, that kind of goes into like even something spiritual, and it's like, you know, how it's like out of the mouth of babes, you know, like you'll hear wisdom, and you know, if you were given, if kids were actually taught So that's the inspiration behind it. If kids were actually taught like how history really was taught, and the actual violent nature of American history, and how America was started, and how many people that were hung, and how many people were hunted down like animals, and how many people were infected with diseases and biological warfare even back then. I mean, all these different things that made America what it is today, which is still like the top of a volcano to me. Saying this is just waiting to explode.
Right.
So I mean, if you taught kids that, and then you ask them to do the drawings that the teachers ask kids to draw when they're in elementary school. They say, hey, give me a Thanksgiving drawing. Hey, give me a Black History drawing. Hey, give me a family tree drawing. And it's like a dark twist on what that experiment was, like not experiment, but what that activity was.
Right.
In school. You know what I mean? So.
Okay, so I want to get a little bit into the tracks on the album.
All right.
First off, you begin the album with some harmonizing. You did a cover, Nina Simone. So just what sparked that? What made you want to do that? What influenced that?
Oh, well, I was already working on a Nina Simone project.
Okay.
At the same time, I was doing this record that's going to be coming out too soon, called The King of Love. It's deep.
Okay.
And but while I was listening to it, when I knew Nina Simone, and I liked Nina Simone's music. I liked every time I watched an interview of hers, but I really didn't know her music.
Oh, okay.
And for maybe like a month and a half, I really just got into it, just constantly listening to her songs and listening to her lyrics and listening to the different performances of the same songs and all these different things she had going on, just how dynamic she was with the piano, and I mean, just kind of like blown away a little bit. Sometimes I obsess about an artist for a couple of months, and she was one of those artists I obsessed about. So the Please Read Me just rang to me because I was writing the book and I was doing the album at the same time, and I was like, there's not many covers in hip hop that actually are meaningful. I mean, Pharrell did an amazing cover of Public Enemy, John, and I mean that was dope. You know what I'm saying? But I think there could be more of those types of things. That's even changing the narrative even more for us, because it's like, okay, you're not supposed to bite but when you do a cover of someone else's song that's a hip hop song, are you supposed to do? I mean, it was interesting how he did that.
Right.
So I wanted to do a cover, and when I realized that Nina Simone's song "Please Read Me" actually came from a poem that was written years before she covered it, so it's actually a poem. Please read me.
Right.
And so it just spoke to me, so I wanted to do my own rendition of it.
Okay. All right. So then, Life and Opinions of a Black Man.
Yeah.
What I take from it is, it sounds like the risk that we take, being in the inner city, our feelings inside of the struggles and stuff that we go through being raised in the inner city.
Yeah.
It's the quote that you say, afraid to let my guard down, in case they ain't who they supposed to be, or even worse, who they are supposed to be. To me, it's levels to that line, and it's just such a dope quotable. Going to the thought process of that track, and tell me if I'm wrong by reading into that track like that.
Nah, you're actually right. Like Life and Opinions of a Black Man is basically, and where it comes on the album is basically like my response to Trump. The Trump intro, you know what I mean?
Right.
And a lot of times when people even hear the Trump intro, they were like, did he really say that? And I'm like, yeah, he really said that. That this is him, in his mind, this is him addressing Black America in a positive manner.
Right.
Like this is what he's thinking he should say to me, and to you, and to anybody that's Black. And I mean, it's so ridiculous. So my response is Life in the Opinions of a Black Man is supposed to really come off as like a sporadic rant, you know what I'm saying?
All right.
And like of emotion, you know what I'm saying? Like displaced emotion, and with truth in it, so with my own truth.
Right.
Because I want to start the record with my own truth to let people know exactly where I'm coming from, which is why I'm like, the opening line is, I looked into my mama's eyes with a straight face, told a lot of lies. Jumped in the car with some bad people, and I took a whole lot of rides.
Right,
You know what I mean?
exactly,
So
right.
I mean, that's just to get you where I'm at with it. But then on the second verse is I'm like, yo, systematic oppression. Who you niggas impressing? Widespread depression, syphilis injections. It's like all of this was basically, that's inspired by like James Baldwin saying like to be conscious and to be black in America is to be in like a constant state of rage.
Right.
And that's where that second verse really is, that's where it was really inspired from.
All right, and then of course the prologue, right? You kind of go into like nice little spoken word at the end. You mentioned Zimmerman. Of course, we all know the tragedy there. Just give me a little bit about what went into that.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically, the prologue is an actual song that was recorded by a band and in the early 20s. They were like a country group.
Okay.
And it was like, nigga run,
Right, that's
nigga
at the
toy,
beginning
and
of
shirt,
it, right,
and two.
yeah.
And it says, run, all the
Right.
party's gonna get you.
Exactly,
Run, nigga,
yeah.
run, now you better get away.
Okay.
Like, that's an actual real song, you know what I mean? And so he's saying, run, nigga, run, or the patty's gonna get you. So the patties is the cops.
Okay.
And this is before, police even were targeting blacks like this. This is almost like them predicting what the future is in this racist rant song. And so on top of that is layered with, what happened to Trayvon Martin.
Right.
What happened to Oscar Grant, saying, Philando Castile, Tamar Rice. All that stuff is peppered in there. And then on top of that is Hillary Clinton, where she comes in and she's talking about the actual birth of mass incarceration in the 90s, at least for our generation, which was the super predators law. You know what I mean? So, then I come in. So.
Yeah. And then we got It Ain't How It Used to Be.
Yeah, man.
I love that, man. That's a dope record, man.
Okay.
Yeah, you put some work in this project.
Thank you, man.
You put some work in this project.
I appreciate that.
And again, I think we talked a little bit on it. It sounds to me kind of like I was saying to you, like the history. Like a lot of these young kids don't know what their grandfathers fought for, what their great grandfathers fought for. So just give them a little bit about what went into that.
Yeah, basically like what you were just saying, a history lesson, and I kind of wanted to go from out of like the Patty Run Nigga Run and starting earlier on with Black history and just kind of go through just to speed everybody up. So it's like, my great granddaddy, fought the Klan. My granddaddy fought Japan and Hitler. His son fought in Vietnam, but his son fought in the gang. Bang.
Right.
And it just brings us right up to speed. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's like the gangs died out back on the East Coast. Every man for himself.
So
we all following street code.
So dope. So dope, man. I was listening to that, John. I'm like, yo, you ran down every generation. You feel up until right
Us.
now.
Yeah.
Come on, bro.
And that's what I was trying to bring forth, and then basically saying it ain't how it used to be, but it's still messed up. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's like they're saying America, they're saying slavery ended in the 1800s. I feel like America's still abusing me, and every news segment just accusing me. You know what I mean? So.
All right. So then we get into, I'm just waiting for the word to swallow me whole. I'm just waiting. Who did that chorus?
Oh, that's me singing the chorus.
Really?
Yeah, that's me singing the chorus.
That's dope, bro.
Yeah.
That's so dope.
Thank you.
The chorus truck is dope.
Oh yeah,
you know
Truck.
What I'm saying?
He go by Ali Miller, so he's using his real name now.
Oh,
you know
wow, okay.
He's much more mature now. He don't want to be Truck North no more. He want to be Ali Miller. So
Right.
So
again, so much stuff covered in this track. The prejudiceness. Of course, the thoughts of young black youth. It's just a beautiful track, man. And also, when you say you're just waiting for the world to swallow you whole, I just want you to explain to the people so they can understand what that means.
Yeah, so it's almost like, feeling like you're just hopeless, you know what I'm saying? But still like, like when we used to wake up and just go to the block, like we really didn't go to the block with any particular purpose, you know what I'm saying? But there's nothing but trouble there, you know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing but, pitfalls, there's nothing but hurdles, you know what I mean? So it's like you basically just you living this life and you're just waiting for the whole thing to just kind of like just you're submerged in it, and it does swallow people whole, and it's like when you get locked up, when you get put inside a prison, it's like you're you're taken out of society and put in like by yourself almost. You know what I mean? So it's being real detached.
Right.
That's what I meant to say. You know, being
Right.
detached from society, detached from everything. So it's almost like being swallowed whole. You know what I'm saying?
Reason cause it ain't one. Baptized in the bastardized nation. In the street you can feel the vibration. Rippling effect when the hate comes. Hater never die, pick the fly when the day comes. That's why we give a kid a play gun. Tell the boy go outside and play, son. America, you know you can't play dumb. Yeah, you know a nigga gon' spray some. Yeah, you know a nigga gon' spray some. Yeah, you know a nigga gon' spray some. Standing in the line of the fire. Just another bird on the wire. Trying to keep his eye on the sparrow. Watch staring down a double barrel.
I mean, it's really about instant gratification and how we've been tricked into thinking that we don't have a lot of time. You know what I'm saying? Because when you really think about most of the men who have come before us, who have done great things, I mean, even, you know, and I'm not just talking about white men, I'm talking about even black men, you know what I'm saying? Like, just men in general, because what one man can do, another person can do, you know what I'm saying, from that movie. But I believe that, you know what I mean? Right. And it's like, when you talk about niggas ain't living for tomorrow, or when I say it in the song, it's basically almost feeling like we have to operate on this, like, this time clock that nobody else has to operate on. Like, you know, we compare ourselves to LeBron James. You know, if you have somebody that's 18 years old comparing himself to, you know, Diddy or something like that, and it's like, you know what, like Diddy was great when he was young, but see, it took time for him to become who he is.
Diddy, that's right.
You know, Jay-Z, it took time for Jay-Z to become who he is. Black Thought, you know, Questlove, it took time for them. And I watched it with my own eyes. And maybe if I haven't seen it with my own eyes and been that close to it, to seeing what, like, hard work actually paying off and putting in time and then sacrificing things and investing in yourself and then using time as your currency and then investing in yourself, that, you know, you can do greater things, and it doesn't have to be done immediately. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, even my dad, you know, he just told me, he said, look, everybody's elevator don't go at the same speed. He said, but one thing, we all going to the top. Just don't get off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it was
wise words from Pop Dude.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
All right, so I need to know who's harmonizing on the Tomorrow Never Comes, Joe.
Oh, okay, that's Suzanne Christine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right,
yeah,
okay.
so-
All right,
Beautiful
Yeah.
voice, you know what I'm saying? Beautiful girl. Inside out.
Break that down.
Oh, well, you know, I wanted her to come in because, you know, I like to have, like, always, I want to have as much expression from the black woman as I can on this, because I'm talking to black males and I'm talking to black females, but I'm more focused on black males. But I always like to have the woman come in to have that kind of echo, because you always want to have your mom in your ear.
That's right.
You always got your little sister in your ear, your auntie in your ear.
That's
so,
true.
you know, when she's like, niggas ain't living on the mom. Like, it's like, that's like her reiterating, like, yo, snap out of it kind of thing. Get off the couch, get up, gotta do, you know, so it's spiritual. And there's a reason why she was on there like that.
So then we get into niggas need remind them. You had to remind them.
I did.
You had to remind them
I did.
who you are, what you do, where you come from. You still got bars crazy. That's one of my favorite tracks on this album.
Okay.
So, you know, go ahead, just let the people know a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that was like me kind of like talking to just even critics of people who say that hip hop is over or whatever, or it's just a lost art form. The people who say that kind of stuff, like, you know, the academics of the world, like those people. I'm like, yo, y'all niggas need reminded. But also, like,
He definitely needs some of
yeah, but also, like, you know, this kid who mows my mom's lawn, he came in their house, and I don't know, for the first time he saw the poster of the woman being hosed down in the civil rights movement by the fireman, and he was like, yo, man, what's that? I was like, what you mean, what's that? He was like, yo, like, I knew white people used to treat us bad, but I didn't know it was like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you never saw footage of Malcolm X or Martin Luther King during, like, the, you know, the civil rights movement? He was like, Martin Luther King. He's like, I saw when the cops beat him up in L.A.
And that's it.
Rodney King.
Yeah, right, yeah, wow.
Rodney King. That's
a
who he
shame.
knew.
And how old is this kid?
He was 18.
Wow.
He was 18.
Yeah, so now we see the reason why this needs to
Niggas
be.
need reminding. Niggas need reminding big time.
Alright, so and then we get into another one of our favorites. Gold Chain. And I know I'm hitting all these tracks on this one.
Please, yeah, I love talking about it.
But this Gold Chain track, first off, I see PD on it. It's not like y'all ain't never worked with PD before.
Yeah.
But you know, of course, PD is a Philly icon. You know,
and he's a world icon.
Right. Yeah. Well, of course. Yeah. I'm not downplaying it, but
I know exactly what you mean.
Right.
See, he's an interesting person because he's internationally known, but he's locally accepted.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And that means a lot.
Right,
so when
no
you
doubt.
say he's a Philly icon, you're right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because like, I mean, it's one thing to go abroad and go different places and, you know, perform, but it's very rare that you can come to your hometown and have that same kind of respect, especially with that kind of narrative that he was, you know, that he's been involved with, you know. So he's very well respected. You know what I mean?
So Gold Chain, you know, and this is something that us all probably in the black community that we've all, we feel like we that's a success. You know, once we get certain material things, chains, sneakers, you know, gear, whatever, the latest whip or whatever, we feel like we on top, you know. So, and that's what I get out of the song. So just break it down a little bit for him.
Yeah, I mean, once again, you spot on. I mean, basically, the psychology that goes into us wanting those things, it really, like, the whole song was inspired by Nas' line. You know what I mean? So Nas, if the record blow up, Nas probably gonna come out and diss me. I mean, you got your whole style from me, you know what I'm saying? Like, and he be right, you know what I'm saying? But the Gold Chain joint is inspired by him when he said I thought Jordans in a gold chain was living it up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of us did. You know what I mean?
True.
And when you see the person on the corner or whoever had the gold chain, most of those things were associated with also being rugged, you know what I'm saying, and being respected. So the chain has a lot of things going into it, you know. And I mean, just us being culturally as a people, we always was into gold and diamonds and rubies in Africa, so it's just in our blood. You know what I'm saying? But we don't know why it's in our blood. So while we running around acting crazy in the early '80s and, you know, shooting everybody up and like stuff like that, snatching people's chains and earrings, I mean, it just got outrageous.
Yeah,
you know, people got go crazy, and I think that still exists today. And I think that if we understood more about ourselves, we would understand more about why we're into that kind of stuff, and understand it's okay to want material things, it's okay to like material things, but, you know, we don't have to obsess about them, you know, and put and replace those material items with respect, you know what I'm saying, for a person's character, you know what I'm saying, because, you know, with the kids, they see a person with jewelry or money or flashing online, they're like, yo, man, I like this guy. It's like, yo, you never met this guy. You know what I'm saying?
They
like,
think
you know,
it's the best in the world.
You know, so I you know, but still at the same time, you know, it's just who we are as a people, and it's just what we like. But we got to understand what's going on about it.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, so you got one of my favorite artists. Well, you know what? Too, the skits too, with the young kid. You know about you got a couple of them on here.
Yeah.
You know, you gonna call yourself that if I give you some money.
It's in a documentary that Bill Cosby shot for I believe it was CBS or ABC.
Oh wow!
And it was all about black culture, and he was enlightening, you know, America about, you know, black culture, black art, and how people have ripped off black art and all these different things. And he narrated this whole thing.
Oh wow!
And they showcased the school in Philadelphia where a teacher basically was re-educating and reprogramming black children, you know, telling his own narrative and basically having them think in having them think from a different perspective than depression and, you know, low
self-esteem,
low self-esteem, all those different things.
Right.
And you know, and the guy was just a brilliant teacher, a brilliant professor who was actually donating his time to the school, and I mean, it was brilliant. But that's why I got the clips from.
Okay, all right. And
I think it's Black
excellent
America,
clips, by the way,
past, present, and future. Or something
okay,
like that.
all right. So then we get into Quicksand.
Okay.
I know I sound probably.
Now you sound good.
But Bilal, I mean, he's another Philly icon.
Yeah.
He's been putting out some quality music for years. Like I said, every time he hit somewhere nearby, I got to go see him. And I know you guys already have a relationship, but just give the people a little bit about the Quicksand track.
Yeah, Bilal, you know, like you say, he's a Philly icon. He's the man. Bilal, let me tell you another reason why he's the man real quick. Bilal, I was in Vegas one time, and he was leaving, and I didn't have a room. He gave me his room key. Wow. He's like, yo, man, I'm leaving tonight. He's like, you have my room, man. You know what I'm saying? Bilal's my main man.
Cool, right.
Yeah. But yeah, the Quicksand song is deep because usually I write the choruses for people who be on my record, like or whatever. I write all the choruses for them, and he was like, "Yo, man," he's like, "I want to work with you on this joint." He's like, you know, he's gonna have me in here just singing some shit.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yo, let me do my own thing." And then he's like, "What's this joint about?" And I said, "Well, you know, you just feel trapped and you know, feeling like something keeps pulling you in." And he's like, "Oh, I got it." And he went in there and just started just doing him. And I mean, yeah, but Bilal Oliver, I mean, you know. He's the man.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
no
saying?
doubt, no doubt. And again, I've stated to you this earlier. The Sorry track is definitely one of my favorites, and I want you to tell the people how this what this song is about, because this is just remarkable. Where it came from, what inspired it.
I'm glad you like that joint too. I mean, Sorry is basically like was inspired by wanting to apologize to black women, but not just from the jail perspective, because that's our current situation, is our modern day slavery, but even going back to slavery, African Americans when we were enslaved, you know, and I'm apologizing for not being able to protect her from the master. I'm apologizing for her getting raped. I'm apologizing for not being able to protect the kids from, you know, beatings, and even myself from beatings. And I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, I know I can be better. I know I'm stronger. And I know, but if, you know, and then her having to protect even me from defending her, you know, because that used to happen. Like, you know, a woman would get raped or get whipped, and then the man will run out of the house and want to go kill the master. And the woman would have to run in front of him and say, no,
the master gonna kill
he gonna
him.
kill you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, or you will be killed. If you kill master, then they will hunt you down and they will kill you. You know what I'm saying? That's just that's the reality of it. So I mean, imagine like having to go home, you know, and like hold your woman after she had just been raped. I mean, and like get on with our lives after that, like as a normal practice. So you know, but even though that wasn't our fault, you still feel like you have to say. So even mass incarceration isn't our fault, but they make us feel like it's our fault. Like when, you know, when somebody becomes a criminal, it's almost like they're not a person anymore. You know what I mean? So just like slavery, you know? And so that's where the Sorry comes from. And it's actually funny because, like I was telling you earlier, Porn the MC, he was the one that told me, he's like, yo, you should make it like a phone call. He's like, and I was like, from prison. I was like, oh wow, so that's dope. You know what I mean? So,
well, it's a dope song. It's one of my favorite songs.
Thank you.
Then we get into the track featuring Normal Jean.
Okay.
You know, which you just explained.
She crushed it.
She did. She really did. She really did. And you said she wrote all of that.
Yeah,
right?
she wrote everything.
Okay. All right. So just kind of give the people the concept behind Still a King.
Yeah, Still a King comes after I'm Sorry, because it's like the black man pouring his heart out, I'm sorry, and then the black woman look at him like, yo, still a king. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I ain't even sweating none of that. You know what I'm saying? But yo, don't be looking at that girl over there too long. You know what I'm saying? You know, because I'll put you back in check type of joint. You know what I mean? So, I mean, and I thought that was a very, I thought it was very intelligent how she did it, but I also thought it was very lighthearted. And I thought it was time to bring some kind of lightheartedness. And I wanted the black woman to have a voice again on the project, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like midway through it, so I wanted her to express herself.
Okay,
you know?
all right. So, Fix It. Tell the people about that.
Okay, well that is definitely purposely put there too, because once we're dealing with, you know, we dealing with slavery, we dealt with prison, whenever we're dealing with the disconnect between the black woman and man, it's like now only thing we got to do is fix. Once we good, now we got to fix what's keeping us down. You know what I'm saying? That's like, you know, this place was built on broken backs, broken laws. Some people got the nerve to say that it ain't broke at all. How can they say that when I'm standing here on broken land? Reach for my slice of American pie, get a broken hand. So it's like, yeah, we got to fix it. This place, that's our solution. Fix it.
Okay. And we go right into One of Us.
Hey, One of Us, you know, definitely One of Us is how we fix it. You know what I'm saying? Like addressing the issue, like, yo, they have a problem with one of us. Was it because we're one of us? Why? Why is it one of us? You know what I'm saying? So, but we'll stick together and then we'll be able to overcome the problem. And not just blacks, but just humanity. And like, even white people more white people got to start speaking up. You know what I'm saying? If they see something that's stupid that's going on, if you see somebody calling the police on a student in Yale who's sleeping in a common area, it's like, yo, that's stupid. You know what I'm saying? If you calling the police on two black males sitting in the Starbucks, I mean, that's stupid. And it's going to be, it's like, but now there's going to be repercussions for that.
Right.
You know, so that's why with one of us, I really want to push cultural competency, because more people understanding what it's like for blacks, what it's like for poor Latinos, what it's like for even poor white people to a certain degree. Not as bad as us, but they still get it too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
When we start to understand each other, then we're able to try to like really address the real issues. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Meek Mill's, I mean, he's the first, black person to ever receive rich white kid treatment.
Yeah, that's
You know what I'm
true.
saying? Like
That's
the billionaires going up there, the governor, no, wait a minute, not him.
Right.
But I mean, that's happened for years for, politicians' kids
Yeah.
and everybody who wasn't associated with somebody of color.
Yeah, you're
but
right.
this is the first time this has happened, and it's just. You know? So,
you're absolutely right. All right, so Inside the Light.
Inside the Light. Inside the Light is deep because we talk about a lot of different things. You know what I'm saying? A lot of emotion. A lot of times, we're still talking about police brutality. We're still talking about the feeling of it, like of even just being my age, and then like when does it wear off?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I used to drive around and I might have had like a gun in the car. I might have had something in the car, but now I don't have anything in the car.
Right.
And I'm still nervous. One day the cops was going this way. He just out of blue just turned the sirens on and just started going that way. I'm like, damn. Is he gonna pull me? Is he gonna loop around and pull me over?
Right.
It's like living with that fear, and it's kind of like the inside of light, and also like just life in general.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Alone.
Alone is some deep because Alone is deep because what I try to address in that song is how alone like the black male kind of feels. You know what I'm saying? And to not really have a place in society and kind of always looked at as this person who is about to do something.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Always, we feel like we don't get no respect. Like we really don't though.
Right.
Like, okay, the coffee stand.
Right.
Let's start there. You know what I'm saying? You want your coffee? Okay, there you go. Like
Right.
no respect at the coffee stand. No respect at the gas station. No respect at anywhere you go. Like, I go to this store that's around the corner from my house, and as soon as I walk up to the counter, the guy's got his money. He's got his hand out.
Right.
Just waiting for the money. I said, don't you want to know what I would like first?
Exactly.
He's just like this. He's like, oh, yeah, you're right, you're right. I'm like, damn, like, like no respect. Then you go home and you get no respect there. It's like,
Right.
for some people, like, you get no respect from your woman.
That's true.
And, so that's what Alone deals with, living in a world all alone.
All right. Okay. I think the public and the people have a good just of the narrative. It's a beautiful body of work. When this joint drop, please make sure that y'all give some attention. There's a lot of good messages in this album. It's a lot of good production. Sonically, it sounds excellent in my opinion. I could tell you put a whole lot of thought into it. The last thing I'm gonna ask you about is the last track, the Young, Gifted, and Black Joint. It was a great way to end the album. So just why did you want to end it this way?
Yeah, well, Young, Gifted, and Black, it's funny because I actually put that song out as a single when the album was going to come out a few months ago earlier, and I put it out as a single as a lead up, and I was like, should I put it on there? And I was like, you know what? I should end the record with this because it gives that hope, that light, and that shine, because it's like we talked about all this pain, we talked about all this struggle, and we talked about just being in a horrible place and then coming out of that place and then having all these different great things to talk about and these great people who came out of these same situations like us.
Right.
And I just figured it was a good way to end the record. You know what I'm saying?
And it's a beautiful record.
Thank you.
If I could say beautiful. It's
You can. The record's beautiful.
It's a
Thank
beautiful record. So tell the people when the joint is dropping.
Yeah, the album comes out June 19th. And that's, of course, that's Juneteenth. For people who don't know, that was the day the slaves were told that they were free. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And and it's Black Music Month, so I figured it was time to let this thing go.
Okay.
And then the book will be out in August.
All right. So it's one last thing that I do to end these shows. I'm going to throw you in the booth.
Oh, okay.
Give the people some bars. You know what I
Okay.
mean? We got something loaded up for you.
All right, let's go.
And we're going to do it.
Bang, bang, bang.
Thank you, man.
No, thank you, my brother. I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you.
going down.
TUBARS. Yeah. Yo. Why y'all dudes sit around checking for Jake? I'm on skates out of state, packing arena space, taking the place of the last known hot artist who probably claimed he was the hardest. I'm the same regardless, the richest. Even if my name's the largest, I remember when I was witless with charges, heartless. But now I got mouths to feed, facing industry greed who could give a darn about my seeds. Indeed, I gotta maintain focus and remain to be serious around jokers. Touching home, leading the hopeless who believe that there's no way out. Show them the right route and take away the doubt. Positive clout, can y'all niggas say y'all do the same? I'm sick of hearing niggas rapping about blowing some brains. I'm sick of hearing about necks glowing with chains. I call y'all icy killers who all sound the same. In every rap, I'ma pull my gat, I'ma lay you flat, I'ma peel your cat. For real? You mean you got time for that? I thought I heard you on everybody's track. So if you hear me laughing in the back, don't be surprised. I guess I murder and get signed 'cause it's a great disguise. I wonder why. Then I realized in order to get recognized, y'all gotta tell those lies.
It's going down.
Yeah,
Chris.
get 'em dice,
You know what I'm saying?
get 'em.
Hey, yeah. Off top, man, I smell like eucalyptus and lemon. Quickly score with women, plenty wars I've been in, and I never call a truce. I'm sipping chartreuse, the pate is goose. I shoot dice with Zeus, shooting cops off the roof. I step inside the booth and turn the lights off and turn them back on with the truth. Girls like me usually don't mess with fat guys. See dice, be like, yo, what's up with that guy? Is he taking? Behind me a trail of hearts breaking, longer than dreads on a Ross Clyde Jamaican. My freestyle receiving a standing ovation. It clearly surpassing Shakespeare's sophistication. And yo, keep my pockets lined with Benjamins. These niggas, I ain't trying to be friends with them. I scream in they face like Sam Kinison. Hip hop sick, well then I got the medicine, the antidote. My flow smooth as a man ago. Y'all look like y'all fresh off the banana boat. I got an elusive Houdini like Criminal Mind. I'm trying to grind in these pivotal times. These niggas talk about all they silly ass rhymes. I'm doing God's work while they coloring to the line. Then the teacher cracks your hands with the ruler, and dead bodies start to pile up by the cooler. You niggas better cool it, or you niggas gon' end up in a pool with sharks and electric eels and you ain't cool with. Niggas talk slick, man, they try to act two-faced. Sticks come out, sorry dice nigga, too late. Blow your brains out, sit down and have a souffle while you suck sulfur and make your boys an offer. You can't refuse, I'm a lit fuse. You try to set me up, okay, that was a stupid move. Hey yo, my neck is surrounded by jewels. Hey yo, these niggas are surrounded by fools. Hey yo, I make my own mother rules. Mr. Make it happen, Mr. Surpass all obstacles, Mr. Do the impossible, Mr. I don't wanna hear logical. Niggas rationalize excuses. Tell you what the truth is. The dropout, who got it all? Who's the real doofus? Blah, blah.
Yeah, man, we in here. Philadelphia.
TUBARS.
Hey, Straw, we in here.
Smash that jump, man.
Bang, bang, bang.
I appreciate you.